All right, so welcome to the Joy and Gratitude panel. This is our third edition. I'm really, really excited to be here again. It's been a little bit of a break, and Katarina is just joining, so I'll let her in. That's exciting. We were just chatting. We had a few cancellations and a few maybe not. So I'm really happy that Katarina seems to be making it, and hopefully Barbara and Shaba can join as well. There you are, Katarina. Nice to see you. So I'm just doing the quick intro of the panel, and then I get into, each one of you just saying a couple of words about yourself. So yeah, the topic for this time is how to maintain a positive mindset within challenging or during challenging times. So we always talk about joy and gratitude, and then we take a specific angle. This time we'll see how we bring the joy and gratitude out when it seems quite difficult to find it. I think this is a conversation I've been having with friends, with family, with myself, within the community, within clients. It can be really hard to bring that joy with intention when things are just really difficult. So I'm curious to see what you've got to say, ladies. All right, so quickly, myself, I'm Anne Raju. I'm the founder of the Magic Mom Life, and I help moms to create everyday attainable magic in their motherhood journey, and with that, hopefully overcome challenges that we experience within that journey and create the joy that really makes this journey so special, I think. So yeah, Laura, I give the word to you because you're our newest panel member. So just tell us a little bit about you quickly.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun to be here in this space with you all. I've combed over your faces and your content that's available online. So I'm Laura Klein-Taylor. I am a life and business coach, and I serve creative entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial spirits. And I find that mothers are some of the most powerful creators simply by way of that birthing thing we do. But it's not just that, it's an iterative journey, right? Like there's always a new phase of birthing that we are going through because we've never had a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10-year-old. So I do one-on-one coaching with individual moms in organizations, and I co-facilitate a mastermind program of women entrepreneurs. And joy and gratitude are at the foundation of all the work that we're looking to support. So I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
So nice to have you. Okay, Kim, you go.
Hi, nice to meet you, Laura. My name is Kim Kendall De Silva, and I am a relationship mentor for women. And I focus a lot actually on the joy and gratitude aspect of our relationships, because one of the things that comes up very often is that, we're, as exactly what we're talking about here today, how is it to find that joy and gratitude in the difficult times? Well, it is very difficult to find the joy and gratitude sometimes when you are in the midst of feeling mostly frustrated and overwhelmed by that one relationship that's meant to bring you precisely that level of joy and gratitude. So I'm very excited for today's conversation.
Good to have you, Kim. All right, Michelle, your turn.
To be here. So I'm Michelle, and I'm a holistic life coach for mums in business, specifically mumpreneurs, women in our own rights, who are also mums, and we run businesses. And I am all about, I'm really passionate about helping you find calm, feel inner peace, so you can really create an aligned work-life balance that works around your family. Because for me, I set up my business so I could have flexibility around my family, but the reality was very different. And there was a whole load of emotional stuff that got thrown into the mix there that I wasn't expecting. It wasn't all plain sailing. So joy and gratitude is one of my key pillars, as well as priorities, boundaries, and your energetics, like mindset and energetics, and just to create this overall well-being. So joy and gratitude being basically working with what you have available right here, right now, in your present moment. So I've got 2 boys, and I work online, and I also run holistic well-being day retreats locally for mums. I live in the south of England. I know we're worldwide. Yeah. So that's me, and over to Katerina.
Hi.
So pleased you made it.
Yes, me too. One of the little ones is still up. I have two kids. In case he interrupts me, I'm sorry about that. It's very likely that it'll happen at some point. Yeah, my name is Katerina. I'm a mum of two. The baby is already asleep. I run a print publication called Heiter, and Heiter is the German word for cheerful or joyful. So I am also all about finding joy in everyday life, no matter how chaotic and stressful it is. Yeah, joyful living or finding joy in everyday life is the one massive pillar of the magazine, and then the other side is all about sustainability, but sustainability and style, because I truly believe that you can have a sustainable lifestyle and still look stylish too. So yeah, those are the two main things. If I don't work on Heiter, I consult with small businesses. I help them with marketing and their online presence. And also with that, I think it can be something very joyful. And I always tell my clients to think about that. What brings you joy when you market your business? And yeah, I'm really, really excited about this topic again. Thanks so much for asking me to participate. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more about all your thoughts, ladies.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm really happy to see you here, and I just love this chats. And yeah, no, I mean, I've known quite a few of you for quite a long time, so it's quite, yeah, I know that everyone has their burdens to carry, and I know that, you know, you all find joy in one way or another. So the first question really is, what are your like practical tips to share when we go through difficult times, but we want to find the joy? Anyone is keen to start? Otherwise I can start, because I recently had a bit of a rough time. Shall I go? So my grandpa unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago, and that's always yeah, a big challenge. And I was chatting to Michelle about that quickly, that when you live far away, so I live in Mauritius, my grandparents, my father and my brother are still in Germany, and I haven't seen them in many, many years, because yeah, it's just not been possible. And it's just so hard when you're far away and when things like that happen. But what came out for me again is that even though it's really hard, there is this possibility of finding happiness and joy. And it's actually, there is this like inner sense of like, we're not really allowed to feel happiness or joy when something really bad happens. Like there is this inner barrier to like, oh, but I should be feeling really sad now, and I should be moaning, or I should be feeling down. But then for me, the happy moment was that my dad said, okay, listen, I'll help you, and I'll pay some of your flights, and you bring the boys over. And that made me really happy, because it's been the first time, it's going to be the first time in 5 years, I think, that we'll travel to Germany. And so it was really just like, it's possible to feel a negative emotion and a positive emotion at the same time. And it doesn't mean that now I'm not having these feelings that, you know, relate to my grandpa and the event. It just means that we can feel all the emotions, and sometimes they exist at the same time, and that's okay. And I think this is something that came to me several times when there were bad, like challenging things happening in life. We like feel awkward about allowing that positive emotion in, because we feel like this is how we should be feeling. But it doesn't have to be that way, I think. So that's my first point of view. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, I thought there's always light with dark and good with bad, and you know, the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine, and we have to have that balance in our challenging times in our lives, because this is how we move through life. It's how we learn, it's how we grow, it's how we can stay present, it's how we feel. And yeah, I mean, I'm just based on that, like when my nan died a couple of years ago, and it's not about people dying, but like I felt very similar. But at the same time, that deep sense of gratitude for her being my life, for all of the experiences, the memories, the everything, it's just so powerful. So although, you know, things like that leave a massive hole, and you know, any challenges, we learn from them, we grow from them, and we, yeah, I think it's
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you both spoke to the polarities or the duality, right? However you want to relate to it. Somebody once introduced the concept of, this versus that being not versus, but coexisting as ambiguity, like motherhood being the ultimate ambiguity. And for me, that really hit home because I realized I could have in the same breath complete exhaustion and total gratitude. I could be both myself and feel like I'm merging the boundaries with the child or the newborn. I could be completely frustrated and like, oh, I'm losing my identity, and also wouldn't trade it for the world at the same time. And until motherhood, I don't think I never had to kind of create that breakthrough because I was always able to control and compartmentalize. So I think that's just really powerful. I do have another sort of approach to staying able to access those positives in the face of challenging, which is sometimes to allow myself to first need to clear the negative. So sometimes there's this perception that, we should just like find the look on the bright side of things, or we've all watched Pollyanna, and there is a silver lining, but sometimes until I let myself be in the ick of it, in the heartbreak and the grief, whatever, sometimes putting a timer on, I need 2 whole days to not have to be joyful, gives me more access to it, because then I can go through the muck and get through to the other side. So sometimes willpower of just like suck it up and get over it doesn't actually work. And I think a lot of moms are told, suck it up. You have to be the bigger person for these little humans. And we're human. So having room for the both and it being a journey is important.
I think.
Feeling. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry, I will shut up in a minute. Feeling is healing, isn't it? And I'm really, really passionate about showing our children those emotions, because they're going to experience those emotions at some point, like the negative stuff. And that life isn't all rosy all the time. So by actually them witnessing us process our own emotions, we're teaching them to how to do it themselves, to raise the vibration overall of the whole of humanity, really. So anyway, I will pass you over to Kim. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But on that note of acknowledging the feelings and giving those feelings space, I think that's so important. I mean, I always say one of the things I like to do is when I wake up, start going through my list of these are the things that I'm grateful for, and it's a new day and all of that. But there are some mornings where I wake up and my to-do list is that's what's running through my brain, and and those mornings I do feel kind of like the sense of dread. So what I've started doing is like, okay, don't try to just push it away. What I do stop doing is, okay, I stop the mental checklist, because I'm lying in bed. I can't actually do anything on the mental checklist, but the feeling still is there. So I will sit with the feeling, kind of let it wash over me, and then be like, okay, let's park you for a bit and let's go through the normal things of, these are the things that I'm grateful for. Because for me, if I don't go through that list in the morning, I feel a little bit rough. So it is an important practice for me. But again, not having one without the other. I can't say that. And in a way that I get to be grateful for the fact that I have the tools to understand the emotions that I'm feeling and the grace to sit with them. And then that comes back to exactly what we're talking about, the yin and the yang. And I remember listening to this podcast once, and one of the speakers was saying, we talk about life's ups and downs, and he always had in his mind that yes, there would be times when everything was up and other times when everything was down. But that's not how life actually works. You can be having a really great moment, but that doesn't mean everything in the world is fine. It doesn't even mean that everything you're feeling at that moment is on top of the world. And that's okay. But that's the reality of our life. And so we can't say, well, in June of 2016, everything was perfect. Well, no, it wasn't. You know, neither was everything bad in December of 2013. It's that ability to accept both parts that will help us cope with the negatives and also enjoy the positives. So
Love that. Barbara,
yeah.
nice to see you. I'm glad you made it.
Good to be here. Thank you. Sorry to be late. It's been a day. It's actually been a day of what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So the
is-
first question was about maintaining, or like your personal kind of tips or techniques, how we can keep a positive mindset when we are in challenging times.
I've liked what I've been hearing so far, and it's just really good reminders. And there's that whole piece too, because I, I love when Michelle said a feeling is healing. There's a piece too of, I don't know, like one of the things I've learned for me is to not feel more deeply than it is, because we have this attachment to what it was in the past. But as we get older, there's things that we can let go faster. Like that's the goal of it, right? So I do agree with like leaning in sometimes and letting yourself really feel deeply, because some of our challenges when we fight it too long. Like, okay, if I just decide I'm going to crawl in bed and give myself an hour and a half in bed, I might be able to work through it more than if I'm just working, like just fighting that feeling. But as we get older, I just heard something on the radio yesterday and I was like, oh man, is this good? For those of us as adults that worry about things, and even if we are not known as worriers, if we just are feeling burdened, let's just say, that we need to do a better job of this because we're teaching our kids. And that was just such a huge aha to me. And then Michelle talks about this too. Can you work with it within your relationships? Like, it never even occurred to me that if I walk around in a little bit of an Eeyore mode for a while, a little somber, that kids are watching. And if we don't have the faith and trust in ourselves and in our future, then we're actually teaching our kids that they shouldn't either. So for me, it's been that journey of how do we feel, how do we work through the feelings more quickly? They're real, they're there, but how do we keep ourselves moving forward? And that's been the fun of it lately, because it's been a challenge. But the fun lately is, can we get there faster? Not from an expedient point, but from a healthy mindset point.
Love that. Yeah.
I feel like it's tends to be the same emotions that come up as well, maybe at different times. So you may feel like you've dealt with something in the past, but then something triggers that again. And so what I find is that every time I revisit a certain emotional feeling, I am now able, because I've been very intentional about moving through it and processing my emotions, I am able to move through it faster, and to keep that even keel, get back to that even keel longer of like, okay, you know, the whole light in the dark, and you know, just getting back into a state of homeostasis, I suppose.
Yeah, Barbara and Michelle, both of you have me thinking about how often I hear people say motherhood is the most transformative experience a woman will go through. And it's almost like it doesn't happen to us. It's like in motherhood, we have the opportunity to confront the stuff that we wouldn't have to confront otherwise, right? Like the way we respond to things. Because without the responsibility of those little ones watching, right, we get to keep doing it our own way. So we like get that invitation from our higher selves to do the deep work while they're watching, while they're little, if we, you know, give a hoot. So it's equal parts, like literal physical transformation, producing another human, but then like in that relationship and that new role that we get, that new identity, having to transform how we do things, how we respond to things. Powerful.
What is that? One of the things, Anne, that you do with this group is allow us to come back together and remind us of who we used to be and where we're going, and that whole celebration piece. Because I love how you say that, Laura, too. Like this whole thing about going deeper, not everybody does. I have a sticky beside my desk that says, it is not normal to live your full potential. Isn't that huge? it is not normal to live your full potential. If that's not normal, then let's do more of that. But at the same time, we're also around others who aren't necessarily feeling the same vibrations or necessarily exploring to the same level. So to have these groups, and I love that you do that, for us to come together to celebrate, look at the little one.
Very
Oh my
sleepy
goodness.
little one.
So it's just great to have these reminders and to have other women who are, oh, hi, little, who are just really exploring for us to become our full potential. It's always a journey and we're never there.
Never there, exactly.
And even those who aren't ready yet, the more people who make the choice and start to move, you know, towards your full potential, eventually, you know, the ripples of that through society, through the world,
Yeah,
it will change. It will change things for our children and our children's children. And I
we have
love
to.
that.
We just have to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So celebrations was something that connected me to the next question that I was thinking about, is how we can shift our perspective to enjoy the smaller moments. Like that was my personal experience, that I was always looking for the grand things, you know, like life should be amazing all the time, full potential, all of that. But actually, I feel that the joy often lies in the tiniest moments. But at the same time, we live in a society where we are told, you know, we've got to achieve, we've got to have certain things, and it's just, I think sometimes it feels too mundane. But I like celebrations, for example. That's something that I started for myself, celebrating small achievements, small things, small moments that made me happy. I celebrate them, and that's part of what I like to do. But what else would you say in terms of these little moments, and especially as moms? I think we have so many little moments with our children, but then we're always fast moving to the next thing, the next task on the to-do list, the next milestone that they should be achieving. How do you grab these and really savor them?
I think I already talked about that in one of the previous panels, but I'll just say it again, because for us, it's really been a game changer. It is that gratitude practice in the evening. Even though we've had hectic days, we always sit down with our son and we talk about the things we're grateful for. And it's just that small little moment that makes me stop, think about my day, and then I'm reminded, oh yeah, my husband made me coffee. Oh yeah, I found a parking spot, you know, and that really, really helps. And then the other thing for me, it's of course my work, because I create content for Heiter. I constantly look out for the small moments that I enjoy and that document them either. I either take a photo or I write about them. And that's really been a game changer for me too.
I find that the more you look for the little things, because like you, Anne, I used to think that life had to be, you know, all this amazing stuff, you know, all this dramatic music kind of, you know, film dramas and stuff. But no, and I was getting a bit frustrated that my life felt mundane, and I just took it really back to basics. And so, you know, I'm grateful for this chair I'm sat on. I'll celebrate. I'll literally like, yeah, I've got a parking space because I'm running late and I can park right outside the school. And I just really feel like, I feel so strongly that as a world we need to change our measure of success. What does success mean? And once I started to reassess, review what success means to me, the joy and gratitude just flooded in, like all those little things. So for me, success is not about finances. Yes, it helps, but for me, it really is about how I feel, and how healthy I feel, how alive I feel today, how much energy I've got. And yes, I do get exhausted. And yes, I do lack in energy sometimes. But having that, going back to those little moments, can pick me up very quickly, very quickly. The simple things. I messaged you the other day, Kiki, didn't I? Because I realized I had some cake left over and I was about to have a coffee. It's like, oh, I've got some cake. I've literally just squealed with delight. It's just the really simple things. We were messaging about something else as well. It wasn't that.
Yeah,
I just went,
and I wanted that cake too, but you'd already finished it.
but it's just the simplest things that really light me up. So yeah.
I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's actually something that I don't want to say working on, but it is, because I get to the end of the week and you're on Facebook and you see the questions like, when are you celebrating this week, big or small? I'm like, I don't know. But I knew that at some point in the week, something did make me smile. Something did make me feel good about, what I've accomplished. But by the end of the week, it's like gone. I'm like, well, I need to write this down. I need to, experience it, make a note of it, reflect on it, because it's all those little things. I was even saying, my 7-year-old, he says some of the most ridiculous things sometimes. And it's, things that I'll burst out laughing. And then my husband will come home and I'm like, what was it he said again? And it's like, but no. And so for me, it's really been trying to get to that point of, when the small things happen, enjoy it, but don't just enjoy it. Kind of find a way to make a note of it, whether it's to come back to, or just so that I'm being more present. Because I think the reason why I forget the small wins is because, again, I'm moving on to the next thing. And so, but then I'm missing out on enjoying the thing that's happening right now in front of me. And that's it.
A lot of us, myself, and I say us, but the women I work with will talk through a lens of like not enough, like never enough. And as if there's only joy and satisfaction once we reach enough, as if there's ever such a thing. And so I have a practice of making 3 columns at the end of the day, just quickly on paper. In the far left column, it's all the things I did today. However many diapers I changed, or phone calls I answered, or puddles I cleaned up on the floor, that all goes into it. And then next to each one, I say, and that is enough, and that is enough, and that is enough, and that is enough. And then to go beyond, in the 3rd column, I write, and I am complete and satisfied. And I am complete and satisfied. And it's something in the repetition, because there's resistance at first. No, that's not enough. Are you kidding? But then I keep going. And then, how dare I also be satisfied and fulfilled? And it's like, eventually I kind of like tip the scale, and it's like, oh, how could I not be? Look at all that work I did, including this exercise at the end of the day. So it's like kind of reaching that stepping through point where I can surrender the narrative that's like a default narrative into one that's really actually more true for me. But it does take some work.
Yeah, I love that.
I think
I'll try that one.
I was thinking where there's resistance, that's where the work is. That's where
I agree.
we need to focus and be aware and be really loving and compassionate with ourselves. Actually say, yeah, okay, resistance here. I can be complete here. I can, what do I need to work on? And just start to just hold it, return to love. And just, I am loved, and it's okay. It's safe for me to look at this. That's just a little thing I've been playing with recently.
Yeah. And speaking of the little things, like, I don't think my kids have ever said, come on, Mom, that's not that big a deal. Like, I'll find a rock and I'll be like, oh, look. And it's really just a rock. But if I make a big deal of it, they're like, yeah. And so it's just this reframing of like looking at something through a child's eyes, that if we linger there long enough, there's something to discover.
I saw the most beautiful Instagram reel the other day. It just reminded me. It was a little boy giving his mother a flower, and how you should really make a fuss if they give you a flower, because it's all they have to give. They don't have, money to buy fancy gifts and presents and things. They can only give the really simple things. And so the joy for that child in giving you the flower is intense, but also for the parent as well. It's like, oh my goodness me, he really loves me. my son, he loves giving me flowers and snails and all sorts. Look at this snail, Mummy, look at this slug. I'm like, oh, it's lovely. But it's sharing those moments It's really precious.
We sometimes have to kiss fish. My boys love fishing, and my little one, when we release them, he wants to kiss them, and mommy has to kiss the fish sometimes. But it makes him, it's so important to him, you know. And again, it's like a silly thing, but it's for me. I mean, this is a memory. I will tell him when he's grown up, and I'll be like, "You made me kiss a fish."
Does he kiss them as well? Yeah.
It has to be a kiss, and then mommy kiss, and then he throws it back in the sea, and hopefully it survives. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. But also what I've been thinking about when you ladies been talking is this, I don't know the exact words, but they say something that when it comes to building connection with your children, and you know, to listen to their small things, because that's the only way they will tell you about the big things when they grow up. And that's something I think is quite important to me as well. Sometimes, I mean, they don't stop talking. I mean, it's like non-stop. And then you have to listen about the snails and the rock and the fish and the whatever. It's like, what? Like, but you know, I make a point of like, it's important to them. It's little for me, maybe, or for the rest of the world. But if I don't listen and if I don't pay attention, then they will never tell me anything when they're 14, 18, 20, whatever. So yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Really good point, actually. Yeah, I've got one who talks a lot about Fortnite and computer games, Minecraft, and so many times I've switched off. But I'm trying really hard to listen, really hard, because it's so big in his world. And then it does create that, you know, nurtures that connection. And he does talk to me a lot about stuff. But the other thing is I'm trying really consciously to put the phone down more, because running an online business, you know, you're probably the same, live on social media. And again, like trying to clean up my own boundaries around my phone, social media, emails and things, so I can be more present, and then be more fun, find more joy within the home, and know that they're listening to me, know that I'm listening to them, sorry. I am finding it a challenge though, a massive challenge, because you know, we are all attached, and the children too these days are all attached to their phones all the time, and it's just creating so much disconnect. So it's just about coming back to love, coming back to the present. And when you're in that state of calm and that, you know, present moment, again, the joy comes in abundance. But yeah, it's a practice. It's all a practice.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that we're really dealing with at home right now, because my eldest, you know, he has a phone now, and it's like, well, what do you mean I can't, you know, watch my show while I have my meal? Like, because nobody else here has their phone while they're having their meal. But when you had breakfast, you were reading your book on your phone. And I'm thinking, I was reading. You're watching TV, but it's not that, right? He's seen me with a device while I had my breakfast. So it's that idea of, okay, no, I have to make sure I'm modeling the behavior that I want him to adopt. And it's not easy, as you said, when you're running these online businesses. I mean, 5 years ago, I wasn't as attached to my phone as I am now. So that's like, oh gosh, to constantly remind.
Absolutely. And so often it gets in the way of the little moments, because it's, again, like going back to what you said, Kim, as well, like on the to-do list, or Michelle, like answering that quick email, and then we miss out on these little things, or we just move on too fast and we don't take them in. And at the end of the day, yeah, we struggle to find the joy, especially when things are not well. Like this is obviously the topic, when we feel quite negative and then we are attached to our screen. I think it just creates that block between really savoring the moment, because you're not present, you're not aware. I mean, like, we know when the kids are in front and watching their YouTube or whatever, you can't talk to them because they don't hear you. You've got to take the phone away, and then it's like, huh? What? Who are you? From alien planet or something? But it's the same for us, isn't it? I mean, it happens to us too. So yeah, the phones are definitely an extra challenge these days. Anyone else wants to leave any comment on that one, or shall we move on to the next question? All right. Yeah, Barbara, you already kind of pointed it towards it, community. I mean, we run these regularly because I think we enjoy talking to each other and you know, listening to each other and all of that. And I know each one of you has their own community as an online business owner. But what do you like? How do you make the best of your community when you feel, you know, in a challenging time? Does it bring you joy? I mean, yeah, obviously messaging a friend or something, but what can people do to tap into community a bit more to get through tough times?
Well, for me, it's having the actual dates. Well, this is the community that comes with the magazine is the High Tea Society. Both Anne and Michelle are members, and we have events every month with workshops. We have co-working sessions. Every second month we have gatherings, and just knowing that they're in my diary, they force me to connect with others, and I always leave feeling so much more joyful. Yeah, I know it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, that's the trick. Having it in my diary and knowing that I have to show up. Yeah.
And I second that about leaving the HITA events with love and joy in my heart as well. And I think for like community, it's so important to surround yourself with like, I've started calling it like-hearted people rather than like-minded, because I
like
about
that a lot.
The heart rather than the head, as in the head should bow to the heart and not the other way around. So this is a recent mindset shift I've had that's really helped me in all aspects of life. But it's being with people who want to see you, who want to celebrate you, who want to share things, who feel safe talking to you, safe in your company, and likewise. It's about creating community, being a community where you don't feel judged and like you can actually be yourself, because personally I find that the people in a few people in my life, so be careful what I say, but I don't always feel like I receive the support that I would expect from them. And that's a whole other issue, is, you know, placing expectation on somebody, and that's as I said, a whole other mindset thing, that we shouldn't expect people to do or be a certain way, but it's a lovely way, just being part of communities, to be me.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend being part of communities like this.
I like the idea that when I'm searching for a community or craving community, sometimes it's because I'm needing something. And so I'm looking for like what's already out there that I can plug into. And sometimes the shift for me has been like, you know, I have to create it. Even though I want to plug into it, like if I'm really going to get the need met, I have to create it, and then I get to create it, and then I get to receive. So there have been a couple of groups that I've joined because I have found what I'm looking for and plugged in. But then also like just that transfer from receiving to giving, and being willing to both ask for and give as an exchange, really important for me. And having it not be transactional, but like a flow. There's another group I'm a part of that I signed up to lead, and then a number of people just fell off and didn't show up, and I had a bunch of feelings about that. But the woman who did show up held me in my feelings about that, and so it just didn't matter who was in which role, which position in the community, because the community ethos was such that it could hold whatever needs showed up of the individuals. So I think that's something I look for in community, is more the ethos rather than like, are we willing to play our parts?
Yeah, for me, when you earlier said, Laura, that, you know, moms often are expected to suck it up, and I experienced that a lot, and I used to be that kind of person as well, like the strong one, that like you can do it all and put the brave face on and push through it. But then things happen, tough things happened, and I opened up to a couple of people, and it was really hard for me to do that because of, like I wanted to be the strong one. But this, like, surrounding yourself with people who don't expect you to suck it up, who listen even to your crying, to your moaning, to your whatever. They listen, they allow you to be you, to feel these feelings, and then they will be there for you to be like, okay, and now how can we move on to something more positive? I listen, like, okay, I understand, but okay, let's like, I need that for me, like to have someone around who is there, who can hold space for me, but then also be like, okay, let's move on to something positive now. And I think it's powerful to have that, because it's hard, like, it's hard to always give that to yourself, I feel. So if you have people like that around you, when sometimes you can't bring yourself to do it because you're so in the midst of all the stuff that's going on, I think it's helpful to have these people around you to reach out to. And like Kiki with you the other day when we had our call, and I was like, I was not supposed to be online, but I needed that connection, I needed that chat, and it felt so good afterwards, and I was so happy that I came on and we talked. And sometimes that's all that's needed when things feel really tough, is a good conversation. I think that's and the world looks different afterwards.
Talking about crying, you mentioned about crying. I attend lots of women's circles, and also hold space as well, for online meditation circles. And one of the codes of a women's circle is that if somebody cries, let them. Just hold them. And I feel like we don't get enough of that in society. Like, you can't cry, you're weak if you cry. There's that, we've been taught that it's wrong to cry, and that we have to be strong all the time and suck it up. But actually sometimes, like, crying is such a good release, and usually when you cry, then it releases a whole load of stuff, including, I read the other day, oxytocin is in tears.
Oh, wow.
So there's been lots of studies about crying and how good it is. So if we need a good cry during not such a good time, damn well cry and scream into a pillow or do whatever you need to do. It's something that we need to get used to doing, but also know that it's okay. It's okay to cry. And if somebody cries, we don't, in the circles, we don't hand them a tissue, we just literally hold them. And when I say hold, sit with them, be with them, help them feel safe, know that they're loved, know that they're not judged. And sometimes it takes, it's over in a couple of minutes, sometimes it takes a bit longer, but it's fine. It's fine.
For that reminder, because there's a lot of crying in my motherhood journey, right? There's just so much stretch. And with that stretch and like feeling I come out on the skinny branches, like there's often the emotion. It doesn't mean anything to me other than that, like, I'm in a stretched place and this is how I kind of like keep it together. Which is strange to say out loud, but I recognize that there is like, I can more fully be here if I'm allowed to have all of my emotion about it, versus like, operate on top of some part of it as if it's not there. Thanks for that.
It's beautiful. Well, it's interesting too, because we're talking about building community. And when you say stretch, Laura, oh my goodness, isn't that about the whole journey? And it does stir up emotions that are deep in ourselves that we don't even know. It's that whole, the cellular memory that just comes to a raw place. For me, the stretch part, though, is how many of us here can relate to being introverted versus extroverted versus whether it's ambivert or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of my works that I've been accused of hiding. Like when you do online work, you can definitely have your downtimes. And I love my downtimes where I'm working quietly behind the scenes. And now when we're building community, sometimes for me, I have to just challenge myself and say, okay, what am I going to do this week? Or what are the 3 things? I know for moms, especially on Valentine's Day, it can be a tough Hallmark holiday kind of thing for some women. And I did a challenge one year that I was going to text 25 friends, like text. So it wasn't just messaging. It was like one-on-one people that I knew. And until I was done with that challenge, I had texted 45 people. And it was just interesting because it was something that I had to give of myself. But then the messages that came back, and it made me, because I set a higher challenge, I ended up reaching out to people I hadn't talked to in a while. Because then I was like, oh, who else can I text? And what else? Because then not everybody sent a nice message back, but there were people that you don't know when we're stretching ourselves, when we're building that community, that we're planting a seed or making a difference or, changing a life, even just by, the options are stay in your own comfortable space or stretch a little bit outside. And that might cause emotions to come up, but it also might show somebody else that there is a connection there that they might have forgotten about or that they might need in that moment, and you just don't know. So building community, it can be a stretch, or finding your community. Because I'm like you too, Laura. I'm like, oh, sometimes I'll bound in like the little yellow lab, like, oh, here's a new group. And then I'm like, oh, this doesn't really feel so good for me. It's good for others. And then trying to like regroup. It's like, oh, maybe one of these days I'll go in a little bit more gently. But that whole community piece, it's just so important for us to push and challenge ourselves, because there's always a gift in it. There's days that you're like, I don't really want to do this. And then you do. It's that gratitude, the joy and gratitude that you find. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Sure, like that point you make about not wanting to do it or thinking you're not going to do it, and then you do it, and it's like, oh, I'm so glad I showed up and I did it. And I think that was something that I definitely struggled with as well. And even like being parts of communities, being a part of communities, and then saying, well, I don't have to go to the meeting today, I don't have to go to the meeting this week, but yet in that act of showing up, understanding that I needed to be there, whether it was to hold space for somebody else or to get support I didn't even understand at that time, but I needed. So, and that's the other thing about being in, I'm not saying, we need to be in multiple communities, but we are multifaceted people, so that there are certain spaces that we can go into, whether we lead them or we are simply part of them, that will build us up and support us. So it's, when I think about, business, and, my husband has his own business, but his is brick and mortar. So when I'm stressed about, the online business world, he's not the best person to speak to. It's really not. Life is crappy because it doesn't work for online stuff. But I learned early on not to expect him to be able to understand that, because it's not a role I need to make him play. But I have women online who I speak to who they understand this is their daily reality too. So I can get that support there. And same thing, even like recently I wanted to do some deeper work from a religious aspect, and I joined a seminar and a group at my church, and it was like, right, there was nowhere else I could get that support. So it was like just finding the spaces that will really serve a particular aspect of my life at a particular time. And I think we're all like that. We all have these, it's like when you have your friends or your family, and there's certain friends you'll tell certain things to, and others that you won't. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, what comes up for me there when you say that, Kim, is like kind of taking your head out from the sand. Like when you're so stuck in some challenges that you're facing, and you kind of feel like this is what it is, and I can't deal with it, or whatever might be going on in your mind. But like poke your head out a little bit and see what's there, because there might be something surprising, unexpected. Like you said, you didn't even know maybe that you needed or would have that kind of support. But if we're staying where we are, then this is the situation that we're facing. But if we just put our head out a little bit and just see what is there, this is where I think we can find the joy and the gratitude and yeah, I think it's for me, it's a good reminder to just keep the curiosity and just see what's happening. It might be right, it might not be right, but it could still, and very likely is better than what is going on where you are at the moment when you're facing some challenging times. Yeah.
I have this other saying that I share a lot, and it just blows my mind. And I think you've heard me say it too. We have not met everybody. Have I said it on here before? We've not met everybody yet who's going to fall in love with us.
Oh yeah, you have
Or,
mentioned it before.
yeah, right. Or
Yeah,
who we're gonna.
reminder. I love it.
Right, because then you have to find a new. Not that you have to find a new group, but when you go into a new group, you're like, oh, as you're saying, and that curiosity, you're like, ooh, is there somebody here who, and not from like fall in love from like that passionate place, but Michelle, you talk about it all the time, from heart to heart connections. Like, who here is there a new dear friend that is waiting right around that next meeting or that next group, or what does that look like? So that's the neat thing with us being in this world of becoming, living our potential and helping other women, is you just don't know who you're gonna meet and fall in love from just a heart to heart perspective.
Exactly. Well, who would have thought that we all meet from so many different places around the world at so many different times, even seasons, winter, summer, whatever. I mean, this is exactly, see who is out there, and with some people you really connect, and then hopefully that relationship builds, and by sharing, maybe crying, maybe having a piece of cake together and just having a yippee about that, I think this is beautiful. So thank you so much. And anyone wants to share any last words before we wrap it up today?
Well, other than now, I need to go have a cup of tea and some cake. But I mean,
if it wasn't 10 p.m., I would join you, but I'll keep that for tomorrow. But cake is always joyful. Cake is always the best thing.
It is. And I do that too, because I find great joy in my afternoon mug of tea. So, that's always, it's the small things in the middle of the day. And, I always tell people self-care doesn't have to be 2 hours in the bath. You find your small spots and take it and enjoy it, reset.
And are we going to talk about self-care in one of these forums? I would love to, because people, you brought it up, Kim, this is on you. People so often go to the same regulars for self-care. There's some cool self-care stuff going on.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, as long as we don't talk about the bubble bath and that kind of thing.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's not about painting your nails and trimming your hair and whatever. Exactly. No. There's like some for real serious self-care stuff that you don't even think about that we could be doing right now.
Totally. We do that.
Yeah.
And not to say this.
Yeah. I was just going to say, on the bathtub thing, the other day I tried, but the tub is really small, and I just got so frustrated. I have a glass of wine, and I'm just like, too small, it's too hot. I can't even, I haven't had to put the wine properly. I'm like, no, I'm done. So that was a total fail.
The Instagram, the social media made us a promise that is not real.
It's not.
I am also not one for baths. I get really frustrated sat in the bath. I get, the water goes cold, and I'm just like, I'm not really a water baby anyway. I'm a very feet on the ground kind of girl. Yeah. Oh, I'd love to share something from, what's it called, the boy, the horse, the fox and the mole, is it? He says, if at first you don't succeed, eat cake. and that's become a running joke in our family now. My boys love that book and film, and we've watched it multiple times and read the book, and so eat cake. Top tip for the day.
You don't take anything away from this 1 hour conversation, just go and have cake now.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, don't be scared of reminding yourself that you can be joyful. Sometimes it's just that you need.
True.
It is our birthright to be happy and joyful.
Yeah,
definitely. And we forget this in the busy go, the doing, and it's the being and the joy, and that is what we need to come back to, I believe.
Agree.
The biggest things I've been hearing lately is, oh, I love that, Laura, the heart, is finding joy in the challenge of it. And that has just been kind of like, not from a toxic happiness perspective, but from a like, where are we, like the challenge, Laura, you were talking about the stretch. The challenge is the stretch, and then being grateful for in the moments of the challenge. So in these future conversations, and that's one of the things I'm really exploring now is like, okay, instead of like dreading the challenge, like, okay, where is the piece that I know that this challenge is growing me, strengthening me, and that by not resisting it, Michelle, you were talking about that, by not resisting it, you actually move through it faster and you get to that new place to who you're becoming.
Beautiful.
Instead of being stuck in the old place where you still have all those icky feelings.
Yeah. Beautiful.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for being here. I will share the recording with you. So if ever you want to share it with your communities, you're very welcome. And yeah, I'll send you an invite for hopefully next month. And we do that again if you are up for it. Thank you.
Great
Thanks
to be
so
with
much.
you.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
You well.